Are you on the edge of your seat?
Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams.
On today's latest trends in location-based entertainment.
Brought to you by the LBX Collective.
Your community to connect, engage, and inspire.
Alrighty, everyone. Let's buckle up. Well, hey, gang. Welcome to Sound Off episode number 45. Oh, boy. We're getting up there, man. Today, we're going to cover the latest business and tech trends as usual. We're going to dive into a hefty list today of new openings and catch up on some closures and some reopenings. How fun. All right. But before we get started, let's dive into our world famous meme. What can we change your mind on today, Mr. Williams?
World famous? I don't think so somehow, but I think the one that I'm going to go with is redeveloping existing spaces is better than building afresh or anew.
Oh, well, that's an interesting idea. Is this really true? I always wonder, repurposing spots for something that you want to do, or is it better just to have a clean slate and build it the way that you actually want to? I don't know. Is there...
Are you an expert in architectural design and development?
No.
Or are you prepared to take on an existing space that you know works, as in is functional, at least, has a loading bay, has toilets in a relatively useful place, has electrics running, is not going to be full of dust after you have stripped it and redeveloped it? You know, there are the pros and cons. I am a big fan of reusing other developments, repositioning, reappropriating. And, you know, the example here of the Circuit City space, you know, there are some benefits here. Number one, Circuit Cities were opened where there was a demographic of XYZ. So you can go back, see what the plans were that made them open a Circuit City there, and then hopefully update that information for to be applicable for what you need. But also, Circuit Cities are laid out in a certain way that is quite functional for a location-based entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Just as an example. And sadly, you know, doing some research into the retail sector at the moment, a lot of department stores are being redressed at the moment. The large corporations are looking at their vast number of chains and they're cutting back. Now, agreed, some of those locations where they're cutting back, you wouldn't really want to open or take over the space and put a location-based entertainment in it. But that's not true of all of the spaces.
I see what you're saying, for sure. Yeah, I mean, hey, bathrooms are expensive to build and we all need them in our facilities. So if you can utilize something that's already built, then, you know, your cost of building is much less and you can put that into something else, like a nicer attraction, for sure, you know?
And also you can have a much better relationship with the landlord.
They love that, yes.
Because you're coming in as a white knight. But fundamentally, the added time of building your own facility, finding the land and going through the whole process of leverage and licenses can be negated at the click of a mouse by taking over existing real estate. And there are a lot of those to pick from.
For sure. Well, and, you know, you might actually be saving somebody's butt as well. Perhaps that, you know, the person going out is getting out of the deal that they have struck with the landlord that they can no longer commit to, and you're in there coming in and going to create a new fun operational facility. So, yeah.
And putting my Frank Price hat on, which I don't often wear, there's also a selection of employees that have experience.
True. That is very, very true. If they're still around and still looking, that's awesome. Okay. All right. Well, let's see here. It is time for a word from our sponsors.
Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Well, okay, let's get at her.
Yeah. Straight into number 45. Wow. And let's do a little bit of trending business news. One of the big developments for me while I was compiling these, at the time of recording this, I've just come back from IALPA Europe. So I'm trying to get over the footsore, hungover nature of that event. But also, I've been sort of covering the fallout from the cinema sector. And one of the big stories was in Variety a couple of days back. And that was a report by NATO, the association that oversees the theatre operator sector, that about 7 or 8 of their members had turned around and said that they were prepared to put 2.2 billion into renovating their current operation. And the list of things included they were going to be improving the registration systems, they were going to be improving the projection systems and the auditoriums. And then right at the bottom, they were saying that they were going to be throwing in entertainment such as zip lines and amusement and looking at F&B. And the Variety writer made every effort possible to avoid the phrase cinetainment, but we know at the end of the day that's what they were alluding to. This is the biggest admittance by at least a smattering of the key cinema chains that they are going to be investing heavily in putting entertainment facilities, bowling, laser tag, amusement, possibly other kinds of immersive attractions into their sites. So if you are an operator and you have one of these chains next door to you, start panicking because you've got brand new competition. It swings and roundabouts, of course. Do we believe that these chains will be able to execute a successful entertainment operation? Well, we can use some examples. Our friends at B&B Theatres, they run their bowling chain and their arcade chain already. They have already established themselves. And our friends at Cineplex have already started rolling out their Rec Room and their Palladium chain. So, they are not spring chickens to this. My fundamental feeling is that we're going to see a lot more of the cinema sector embracing cinetainment in one way or the other, as well as social entertainment, not just family entertainment centers and leisure, but I also think that they will be looking at competitive socializing as a possible parachute into their venues. And we all need to be mindful of that, as well as welcoming a brand new group of operations to our crowded industry.
Yeah, great points. I mean, if here's the funny part, if you went to Rec Room when it first opened, you would probably be cringing as an operator because the service and everything was so horrible, and it's taken them years to figure it out, but it's getting better, and so people should be afraid. They should be.
Yeah, most corporations, especially outside of our sector, take a while to actually fully understand. Usually the kind of the well-worn path we see is that they come up with a high ideal concept, they develop it with no understanding of the market, they sack all the managers involved with that project, they start again with new management that has some experience in the industry, and then they start rolling out a professional package. And you can see that with Rec Room. They have gone through all of those stages of grief and some. And what they're now rolling out now has quite high quality food and an interesting entertainment offering. Still a bit rough around the edges, but hey, early days. That to our friends at B&B, they have been successful with the number of facilities they're rolling out, and they're continuing with that process.
I mean, these guys are mostly in high profile locations though, and so they've got big visibility and they're starting to get it right. So it's very interesting.
It is something to keep an eye on, and for Variety to put a number by the investment that these guys are going to be putting in. How many operators in the location-based entertainment have got a spare 2 billion floating around in their back pockets?
Exactly.
Jumping to Japan, and we have a little bit more clarity about a tertiary business that the amusement boys are running out there, and we have a new name to throw to the mix. Our friends at Capcom have announced that they're opening up a Gashipo, crane, and merch store operation. When we say store operation, these are entertainment facilities that can be parachuted into retail mall units. And our friends at Bandai Namco have rolled out their cross store. They've also rolled out a Gashipo store concept. Capcom now has their addition to the mix, and our friends, at Agenda have their versions of this. So this is a trend that is now gaining momentum in Japan, and I wouldn't be surprised, as we've seen with the Bandai Namco cross stores appearing in America and in Europe, that we don't also get to see these alternative versions. I know Taito has one of their merch store concepts, which is looking at international deployment, but it's an interesting one to see where these guys are pivoting towards embracing the new market, away from their traditional coin-op style entertainment facilities.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice to have a blast from the past. It is, anniversary time, and it is the 50th anniversary of Aladdin's Castle. Now, if you're not American, and if you're not up on your classic arcade lore, Aladdin's Castle was one of the early success stories that charted the rise, the explosion of the traditional arcade, video arcade market, which has grabbed the zeitgeist, which is so nostalgically popular, iconic as it were. And though in the end, the venue operation was consumed by Namco Cybertainment in the 90s, it still is, one of those well-known venues. At their peak, they had 450 sites, and they were a very strong player in charting the success or the failure of new video amusement pieces that were coming out during the golden era, and as well as the silver era of the sector. It's also, I've been taught to be mindful of our history, because you'll be cursed to repeat it if you ignore it. And so, understanding that Aladdin Castle at its heyday was opening up a facility every week kind of is mindful of the situation that we're going through right now. I would say the only difference is that the technology that we put into entertainment facilities now is a little bit more established than the innovation that was being experienced during the 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Go to an Aladdin's Castle?
I have never been to an Aladdin's Castle. I am putting that on my list. This is amazing.
Well, I think there's 2 or 3 that still exist, but of course they're not part of the chain, because the chain is long gone. I think those are just retro throwbacks. But yes, especially when I was working in the amusement sector, there was at least one test facility that an arcade company manufacturer worked with, that was an Aladdin's Castle. And they were a kind of unique, sticky floored, illuminated castle to the wonders of the video game industry. And also they were a bloated mess that found it hard to survive after a certain period of time.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, fun.
So let's jump into the tech trends. We've had a lot of announcements going on of new head-mounted displays. These ones are particularly of interest because the corporations behind them are quite prevalent in commercial entertainment. So each one of these brands is aimed at location-based entertainment as well as commercial enterprise application. Funny enough, only a matter of days ago, I was at a private event held by HTC, where they gave us a chance to get our sticky fingers on the brand new Vive Focus Vision. It isn't a version 3 or 4 or 5. It is a update of the existing Vision Focus 3 with the addition of eye tracking, color pass-through, better performance and better ruggedization, and including hot battery swapping. So it is a strong pair of hands for what we need in the market. Our friends at DPVR have rolled out their new enterprise system, which they're going to be actively pushing in location-based entertainment, as our friends at Pico. Pico were also pushing quite heavily in Amsterdam. They had representatives on the show floor, and they had a number of their systems on booths operational. So good to see that we have a choice from an operator's point of view. Only having one solution is good, and good that we have dependable companies looking at enterprise. I won the private bet with myself that Meta Connect that just took place made no mention of enterprise or location-based entertainment. So those companies that were hoping that there would be a Meta Quest 3 or Meta Quest 3S that was targeted for our sector was sadly disappointed again. And talking about the fantastic time, I will try and knock up together a little bit of an appraisal of what was interesting at IALPA Europe for the next Sound Off. We have a feature coming out that looks primarily at the immersive entertainment side, another virtual arena, but there were some other general pros and cons. VR is still there, still prevalent, a lot more free roaming. That we had mixed reality there in presence, and we had at least 4 AI-powered products on the show floor. Only one robot, though. It's a bit in shape. So the trends were there. Also, there was some politics going on, and it's interesting to think how this will impact what we're going to see in a couple of weeks' time in November. What is it? Only 40 days or whatever.
Yeah, it's coming up pretty fast, actually. Yeah. Yes.
Accelerating towards us. There are going to be some political developments being announced in Orlando, but also I expect to see some new products, especially heavy on the IP, intellectual property. Anyway, time to jump into the marathon again. And joining the new additions, as it were, Tilt Studios. If you're not familiar with the brand, they have started to roll out their own. They have quite a considerable chain, and they have rolled out some new announcements of new openings. So a number 1 and number 2. It's interesting to see that they are, really pushing their particular unique flavor of bowling and amusements. They also have another brand in their chain, which I'll touch upon in a minute. This particular site in Northwood is of interest because they're going into a old Round One facility again. We're seeing a pattern.
Yeah.
This is another company, entertainment company, leveraging a existing facility, sort of harking back to the beginning of this presentation. Our friends at Round One in Japan have some announcements, but they have, rather than celebrating new openings, they're actually going back and updating existing facilities, giving them a new lick of paint, giving them an upgrade, including also a new payment infrastructure platform, game charge cards, which is interesting. And where our friends at Round One in America are sort of focused on the play and the amusement, our friends in Japan push the tagline of Round One being a sports entertainment facility. The bowling aspects and the ping pong and all of the others seen as sports. It will be fascinating to get a glimpse of how this new pricing model, the card system, and how they're pivoting themselves. A lot of rumors flowing around about what's going on with Round One in Japan. It's quite a large brand and large chain of operations. And like many of those large entertainment chains in Japan, a lot of companies are looking at that market with interest. Talking about virtual reality as we were earlier, our friends at Sandbox VR have announced the opening of their 51st facility, which is in Macau, China, in a casino complex to be exact. And they also announced their 52nd facility, which will be in Berlin. They're pushing pretty heavily. They're European. They have established a partnership with a company to roll out a number of Round Ones in Germany. Then our friends at Dave & Buster's. Here we have an update. Yet again, another of their facilities that's going to get or has just completed its restyling to include the social bays and to embrace the new reimagined branding. So that is throwing its doors open. And then at the same time, we're learning that a number of facilities are being planned in India. They're talking about 20 facilities being opened over the next 4 or 5 years. And the first of those those Indian facilities in Bangalore will be opening in the next couple of months. It's interesting that the disposable income is seen from that territory to be strong enough that you can roll out into an already crowded Indian FEC market, 20 Dave & Buster's. Again, I will be fascinated to see the menu and the layouts for Dave & Buster's in these new territories, as much as we're interested to see any of the established chains' venue transitions into other territories.
Mm-hmm.
Electric Social Arcade appeared on the radar, having thrown open their doors. It's an interesting one here. Berlin, of course. And from my point of view, it wasn't on my radar at all. And now Berlin has the largest social entertainment venue for the city. How long has this been going on? It was a surprise to come across this, and again shows the speed in which deployment of new venues is going, and how much effort is being put in the big sites, the big cannons, as it were. Topgolf also in the news. They have new openings. They're pushing quite heavily in Saudi Arabia. They see the Gulf states as an important market, and they've done a partnership. And they're looking at a number of facilities opening by 2028. Our friends at K1 Karting, they're rolling out a new facility. They're also pushing a little bit more the entertainment side. So their karting is still front and center, but they're adding a lot more entertainment and F&B to the mix of their facility rollout. Then we have a new entertainment offering now, 20,000 square feet. It's going to be parachuted in to Wisconsin, and this is a real mix. It's got the mini golf, it's got the duck pin bowling, it's got the arcades, it's got the live music. So they're really going for a leisure entertainment, social entertainment vibe here. One of the things that I was surprised at IALPA Europe was the number of duck pin and social bowling exhibitors that were on the show floor. Then we have the Zone, a Canadian operation, going in with a brand new site, but this is retro heavy. So we've got to have about 60 retro style arcade systems there, along with 8 lanes of bowling and F&B. So again, another new entrant, but also another new mix on the traditional approach. In England, Hollywood Bowl has been going through revitalizing. They put quite a considerable amount of money into going through their operation and updating. And along with that, we also have some new openings. And so they announced a 26,000 square foot new facility in Livingston, which will be, again, building on the newer interpretation of the brand. Slick City, a Virginia entertainment facility. As much information I could get out of this. It's trampoline. It's got the bowling. It's got the amusement. It's again an interesting one as it's part of a chain of facilities, and what seems to be the current trend we're seeing from all of these chains that are opening up new venues is that they make strident statements about what they're going to be doing with their brand. And so they're promising that they're going to be opening 500 venues in the next 5 years. We wish them a lot of luck with that process. Time Zone, if you're familiar from the Australian New Zealand and Vietnamese side, the operation has been working very hard to roll out its chain in the oceanic territories, and they made some announcements on some new openings. One in Chow City is going to be in a mall. Again, they've really been improving their footprint and their presentation of entertainment side. If you're not familiar with the Time Zone brand, I would really recommend looking them up, because they are, they're keeping a very low profile, but they have a very strong property brand in the entertainment sector that is worth keeping an eye on. And then finally, the closings. Well, I don't have really any proper closings. I have some good news for a chance. I have a reopening. One of the people I was managed to sit down and chat with during my IALPA Europe marathon of meetings was the heads of the park playground. We broke the bread, talked the turkey, and they were kind enough to give me a little bit more transparency into the problems that they had gone through in the UK with their new facilities. And they were able to give us some good news that the two facilities that had closed down, they've managed now to find a new owner, a new manager that will be taking over the Leeds facility, and that will be opening up in a matter of weeks, hopefully by the middle of October. And they also feel very positive about being able to announce something for the Manchester facility as well. Suffice to say that they went through some learning regarding the market in the UK. They are more familiar with their European, Netherlands, Germany, France businesses, and the UK brought some new wrinkles to the table. So they felt best that they cut back to the quick, make some adjustments, and then find strong partnerships that were prepared to learn the lessons that they had and deploy the more appropriate branding and stylistics for their VR entertainment. And we wish the Leeds opening all the best. I will try and get out there as soon as possible. I was also able to try some of the park playgrounds new VR experiences that they're going to be parachuting into their facilities at the show, and they are all guns ahead, very positive. But being smart businessmen, when they see a roadblock, they're prepared to stop, address the situation, and then move on rather than plow on regardless. And I have to admire them for being that honest and that brutal with what is quite a complicated business model to enter into.
Yeah, they should be commended on that. That's wonderful to hear that story. I'm glad to hear that. Awesome.
And I appreciate them taking the time to actually go into details. They didn't have to do that.
Yeah, right.
It shows that they want to help the market. Who's this weird Brit in a suit that writes this weird article? Why should we give him exposure to our business days today? I can understand if they didn't want to do that, but it's clear that they feel very strongly about this sector and are willing to pass on the good as well as the bad. Well, that is the rundown. Hopefully I haven't taken a bloody hour to do it like I normally do.
You just whipped that out today like super fast. I feel like we're ahead of schedule here.
Yeah, I want to make this a little bit more economic. I don't want our viewership falling asleep constantly.
I don't think that they ever do that, Kevin. I think you always come loaded with lots of good tidbits for sure. A few things that you mentioned. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, please. I was going to ask you the question. Yes.
I was going to say a few things that you mentioned. I just want to circle back on is that, so for Slick City, I think that's interesting. 500 locations of slides. Like, how does that happen? How do they work on their own? Like in my mind, I can see them being super successful as maybe an attraction in a facility, like 500 locations where they install it. Yes, bang. I think that model makes sense, but 500 independent locations where it's just slides?
I don't believe that they can get away with just slides. I think you go for the slides and come away with the entertainment value. It is clear that they have been thinking about this very hard. And they already have installed quite a significant installed number of venues, so they roughly should know their market. Never say never. To pick a number like 500 tells me that I think that they have done some research into what the market can bear regarding their unique entertainment offering.
Yeah, wild, wild. I've never had the experience of going to one
No.
yet, so I still need to have that to determine how much I love it or not, right? But it looks like
Well,
fun.
yeah, it's going to be, urban air was one of those type of
Yeah.
active
Well,
entertainment venues that I hadn't come across previously many years ago, and I then had to do the research and go and do the experience. I was and still am a little bit skeptical of the trampoline sector. Anything that needs
mhm,
the waivers and the kind of insurance that they do
right.
always gets me scared. I even raise an eyebrow to karting in some cases because of all the liability issues and the higher level of maintenance and appropriation. Same with trampoline parks, same with slide environments. Active entertainment, though, is really big, and that was another trend that we saw on the show floor at IALPA Europe. How much active entertainment now with gamification is being pushed. And the nice thing about a lot of these trampoline sites is it isn't going to take too much for you to go jumping in to these venues, rubbing a little bit of gamification in there, the target reticles, the scoring bots, the wristband systems, and then you can generate secondary and tertiary business out of what would have been just a normal trampoline experience.
Hmm.
So again, active entertainment, watch this space, and I wouldn't be surprised that we're going to see some other buoyant calculations of openings from some of the other chains.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. You also mentioned that you were seeing a lot of IP and you were forecasting that we're going to see some IP in Florida. Like, I'm curious to know a bit more about what your thoughts are around that.
So if I told you that there were 4 brand new products based on Angry Birds on the
Oh
show
my God,
floor at
really?
IALPA Europe,
No, no. What are you saying? No.
not more. We already have a number of Angry Bird games rolled out on the brand.
I don't get it.
And we have 4 more to add to the list. We have the Smurfs entering
Yes.
virtual
Yeah.
reality. We have Warhammer and Space Marines entering virtual reality. We are seeing IP pivoting towards immersive entertainment and location-based entertainment application. And IALPA Orlando will continue that trend, if not double down on it.
Interesting. Cool. Well, yeah, I'm excited to see it. Bring your cameras. Make sure you
Oh
capture it.
yeah.
Do you know what I actually thought was interesting is as you're going through the slide presentation, showing some of the openings and the new expansions there, that the logos of some of these places, they look so old. Like they haven't like repurposed their logos, made them look a little bit new. Like they look pretty flat and boring and plain, which was surprising.
Yeah, I understand that I'm grabbing the web-based version of their brand logo.
Still though,
You would hope that they would put their best foot forward on the internet. It doesn't take a lot to have the highest resolution, highest variant of your brand logo. But that said, I am a little concerned that some of these branding packages that are being represented from some of the companies are a little bit tired, shall we say, or lightweight. I was especially unhappy with really what our friends at Dave & Buster's has done with their branding. We'll have to pause that for a second. I was looking at the Dave & Buster's rebranding. I still don't feel that they've gone over the top, shall we say, with their branding for their new social bay approach. But again, these companies feel that they understand what is appropriate to get their recognition factor out there. Put it this way, where some projects that I'm working on, when it comes to putting our brand out there, there'll be a lot more color in it.
Yeah, that was, yeah. Well, I was wondering, like, are they just doing this for cost savings because everything is going up? So we're just going to keep things super simple here, or, Especially like
Well,
you said, you're grabbing it off the web. Why you can throw as many colors as you want on the web.
it doesn't cost you anything. No, if you look at the retail industry, especially looking at the new McDonald's layout and branding, or the new Starbucks or the new Taco Bells, you can see that minimalist styling is impacting the retail sector. And as many of these chain operations take their brand and marketing people from the retail and fast food industries, it isn't surprising that minimalism has transgressed over. I think it's a bad move, and I think they will be looking at rebranding themselves in 5 years rather than in 10. But again, horses for course.
Wow. That makes sense. I think we need to do things a little bit faster than we have been, just to keep things light and lively and people engaged and coming back, right? So
I would really argue now, with the glut of location-based entertainment properties and projects going on at the moment, if you haven't looked at all of the brands that just are influenced in your area and not gone for the middle ground of coming up with something that beats all of the competition, then you are laying yourself open for attack.
Yeah. So interesting. Yeah, there's a new entertainment location going in by my place here at a mall. And what I find so fascinating about it is that it's on this third level of the mall, and the mall has built stairs and an elevator right at the front that looks horrible. It's got to be the worst entrance for an entertainment place I've ever seen in my entire life. So to get there, you have to go up this brown stairs or take this terrible elevator up. It is mind-boggling to me. I'm just so curious to see how that pans out for them.
It was one of the problems that hit level 257 that then turned into Putman Arcades, Putman Entertainment, that the entrance from the mall into their facility was appalling. That you were going through near enough a 1980s conduit from the back of the mall to get to the front. And they when they updated the operation to try and make it more attractive, they paid a lot of money to remove a lot of the obstruction that the mall had put in place. As Adam will be able to tell us even better, that sometimes there's a gun to your head when you're dealing with a mall, and you have to just take what you can
that's
get.
true.
But also you need to be mindful of the guest experience. And I've been doing this a lot recently now, talking about the guest experience for location-based entertainment, where I think a number in the LBE and amusement side haven't been thinking about the guest experience, feeling that this is more applicable to theme parks and resorts, and are now beginning to understand that this is applicable to all kinds of entertainment.
Yeah, good point. Good point indeed. All right. Well, I guess that's a wrap. Thank you. This was very enlightening. Lots of great stuff, and look forward to the next sound off. And you maybe tell us a little bit more about what's happening or what happened at IAPA Europe. So, and what we can expect for Florida, which again, you're scaring me, is just a couple of weeks away, frankly. So anyway, there we go. All right, gang. Well, thanks for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode.